You embarrass me. I'm disgusted by you. Those words didn't come from a stranger, or even a distant relative. They came from my daughter-in-law, right in front of my entire family, at my grandson's graduation dinner. The clinking of silverware stopped. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Dozens of eyes turned toward our table. But I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't say a word. Because I had been waiting for this moment for 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. I gently waved my fingers toward the waiter, and as if rehearsed, a video began playing on the big screen that hung behind the dessert table. The soft jazz faded. The room fell into silence. My daughter-in-law Olivia didn't know it yet, but her carefully built world was about to collapse. And I was going to be the one to pull the first thread. If you've ever been pushed aside, insulted, or humiliated by someone who thought they could erase you, stay with me. I promise you, this story is for you. It all started that evening at the Hollowdale Country Club. The dinner was in full swing. Crystal glasses chimed, the laughter was refined, and small plates of salmon and roasted vegetables were being served to smiling families. My grandson Caleb sat at the head of the table in his tailored navy suit, his graduation cap long tucked away, replaced with pride and promise. Harvard Law School. Full scholarship. My heart swelled as I looked at him. He was everything I had hoped a grandson could become. Grandma Ruth, did you see the dean's face when I quoted that passage in my speech? Caleb leaned closer to me, his eyes shining with excitement. I smiled warmly and gave his hand a gentle squeeze. You've always had a way with words, sweetheart. Your grandfather would have had tears in his eyes. But before Caleb could reply, the atmosphere at the table turned bitter, like a sudden cold wind sweeping through a sunny park. Oh, please, Olivia said, her voice sharp and coated with venom. Let's not pretend this is some fairy tale. We all know the truth. The table went still. Caleb's smile faded. Olivia, my son Marcus warned, a nervous edge to his voice. But she was already standing. Her sleek maroon dress shimmered under the lights as she turned to me, her wine glass trembling slightly in her hand. You want to know what I really think? Her voice carried just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. She pointed at me as if accusing a thief. This old woman has been parading around like she's some devoted grandmother. But really, she's an embarrassment. She always has been. My stomach twisted, but I didn't let it show. I had learned long ago that reacting to Olivia only gave her more fuel. Mom, please, Marcus whispered again. But it was too late. She dresses like she crawled out of a church donation bin, Olivia continued. Every time we're in public, I have to pretend she's not a complete social disgrace. Her stories make no sense, her opinions are ancient, and honestly, her presence ruins every event. My navy blue dress suddenly felt heavier on my body. It was modest and elegant. I had picked it carefully. But Olivia wasn't talking about fashion. She was doing what she always did. Cutting to wound. Olivia, that's enough, Marcus said louder this time, but she ignored him. Every time I've had to sit beside her in public, I've cringed inside. She speaks out of turn. She makes everyone uncomfortable. She's a relic. Then Olivia leaned closer to me, her voice lower, colder, more personal. You disgust me, Ruth. I look at you and feel sick that you're connected to me by family. For a moment, everything blurred. The sting of her words was sharper than a slap. But then, strangely, a calm washed over me. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. I smiled. Not a smirk, not a grin. Just a small, peaceful curl of my lips. The kind that makes your enemy lean back and wonder what they missed. I reached into my purse with steady fingers. Olivia saw me move, and for the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. What are you doing? She asked, her confidence suddenly uncertain. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Across the room, I made eye contact with Nathan, our longtime waiter. He gave a small nod and walked toward the corner of the room, to the control panel near the bar. The soft jazz faded completely. The lights dimmed just enough. And then, the large flat screen behind the dessert table came to life. There she was, Olivia, sitting in a lawyer's office, looking every bit as composed and polished as she did right now. The date stamp showed it had been recorded 6 months ago. Her voice rang out across the room, clear and cold. I don't want her to ever contact me again. As far as I'm concerned, I never had a daughter. The color drained from Olivia's face like someone had flipped a switch. She stumbled backward and gripped the edge of the table. What is this? Marcus whispered beside me. On the screen, the lawyer replied. And you understand this means no visitation, no contact, no legal ties whatsoever? Exactly, Olivia's voice responded on screen. I want her erased. I'm starting a new life. No baggage. The room erupted in hushed gasps and dropped forks. Olivia staggered into her chair as if her knees had finally given up. Her head dropped onto the white tablecloth. For a second, I thought she'd passed out. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because I had been planning this moment. Down to the second. 4 months earlier, I had opened my front door to meet a private investigator named Julian Ross. He had arrived with a worn briefcase, tired eyes, and a folder thick with answers I never wanted, but needed to see. He handed me a USB drive. I watched that drive one quiet night in my living room. Watched Olivia speak about her own daughter, Madison, with the same detached cruelty she used on me. I watched her erase a life like it was a typo. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her destroy another person in my family. Not while I was still alive. That night after the dinner, the video kept playing in my mind long after the party had ended. Not the one on the screen but the one in my head. The one I had seen alone, in my living room, when I realized what Olivia had done. That video had changed everything. For months ago, I was standing in my kitchen arranging white tulips into a vase. The radio was on low, the kettle just starting to whistle, and for a moment, life had felt calm. Then the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, a man with tired eyes and a gentle voice introduced himself. Mrs. Brooks? My name is Julian Ross. I believe we spoke on the phone. He wasn't what I expected a private investigator to look like. His gray suit looked a little worn out, and his leather briefcase had a scratch across it, like it had lived through too many sad stories. He stepped inside and followed me to the kitchen table. That same table where I used to help Caleb with his science homework and where my late husband used to read the newspaper every morning. Julian sat down, opened the briefcase, and pulled out a thick manila folder. I have to be honest with you, Mrs. Brooks. What I found, it's more than what you asked for. I felt my heart tighten. I had only asked him to look into why Olivia had been seen going into a law office. That's all. I didn't expect much. Maybe she was handling something private. But deep down I had known. Something had felt wrong for a long time. Julian slid the folder across the table to me. Before you open this, I need you to understand. Once you see what's inside, you won't be able to forget it. Sometimes the truth. It can be worse than not knowing. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. I've been through worse, I said quietly. Just show me. He nodded and slowly opened the folder. The first document he pulled out had a bold title at the top. Petition for Voluntary Termination of Parental Rights. My breath caught in my chest. She has another daughter, Julian said softly. Her name is Madison. 23 now. The name hit me like a wave. I didn't even know Olivia had a child before she married my son Marcus. None of us did. I scanned the paper. The language was cold and legal. It said that Olivia gave up her parental rights not because she was sick, not because she was struggling financially, but because she was starting a new family unit and didn't want complications. She gave up her daughter to start fresh? Julian nodded. That's what the documents say. I couldn't speak. My throat burned. Then Julian placed another paper in front of me. A social worker report, he said. This is about Madison's life after that. The report said Madison had been only 15 when Olivia left her behind. She'd been living with an elderly grandmother who passed away 2 years later. After that, Madison went through foster care until she turned 17, and then she was on her own. No support, no family, no college, no help of any kind, Julian added. She's been working 2 jobs ever since. Right now, she's a security guard by night and a barista on weekends. She's trying to finish community college. I stared at a photo he handed me next. It was a candid shot, taken from a distance. Madison was walking to her car at 3 a.m., dressed in a faded security uniform. She looked tired, but there was something strong in her eyes. Eyes that looked exactly like my grandson Caleb's. She doesn't even know Olivia remarried, Julian said. She has no idea your family exists. I touched the edge of the photo with shaking fingers. How did you find this? Mostly public records, he replied. Court documents, old addresses, school records. And I spoke to some people who knew her before. Why did Olivia leave? I asked, even though I already feared the answer. Julian hesitated, then said, because Madison started asking questions. About her father. About their past. And Olivia didn't like it. Her neighbors said she looked at Madison like she was a problem. A threat to her new life. I covered my mouth and leaned back in the chair. I couldn't breathe for a moment. This wasn't just about a mistake or a painful decision. This was something cold. Calculated. I have one more thing to show you, Julian said, reaching into his bag. He pulled out a small USB drive. This is from the security footage inside the law office. I got permission to obtain a copy. That night, after he left, I locked the doors, closed the curtains, and watched the video. I saw Olivia sitting in a leather chair, perfectly put together. Her voice was calm. Her face showed no guilt. I don't want her contacting me, she said on the recording. I want a clean break. No complications. As far as I'm concerned, I never had a daughter. I watched that video 3 times. And then I sat on my couch and cried. I didn't cry for Olivia. I cried for Madison. For Caleb. For my son Marcus, who had no idea who his wife really was. And I cried for myself, because somehow, I had let this woman be part of our lives for 15 years. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to tell Marcus right away. I knew how that would go. Olivia was smart. And she was fast. She would twist things, lie, cry, turn the blame on me. I remembered something my late husband used to say. If you want a liar to hang themselves, just give them enough rope. So, I waited. I watched Olivia closely, but quietly. I had Julian continue checking into her past, just in case there was more. And then I started planning. I knew Caleb's graduation dinner was coming up. I also knew Olivia wouldn't be able to hold back her sharp tongue. All I needed was for her to show the world who she really was. By the time the graduation dinner came, I wasn't nervous. I was calm. It was the kind of calm that comes when you've cried everything out and there's nothing left but quiet. I wore the same navy blue dress I wore to my granddaughter's wedding 6 years ago. I had saved it because my late husband always said I looked elegant in it. That night, I ironed every crease and pinned my silver brooch on the collar. It wasn't just a dinner. For me, it was a battle I'd prepared for. I arrived early. Nathan, the waiter we'd known for years at the country club, greeted me like an old friend. I slipped him a small envelope with a thank you note and instructions. His eyes scanned the note, then he looked at me with a slight nod. He didn't ask any questions. I didn't offer any answers. He just said, "Yes, ma'am," and that was that. My family arrived bit by bit. My son Marcus in his gray jacket and stiff shoulders, Olivia in her maroon dress and polished nails, and Caleb, my beautiful brilliant Caleb, practically glowing with pride. We all sat at the long shining table. There were candles. Laughter. Toasts. At least for the first half hour. Caleb leaned toward me, smiling wide. Grandma Ruth, when I gave my speech, I think the dean teared up. "Can you believe that? You always had that effect on people," I said with a grin. "Your words have weight, sweetheart." Your grandfather would have stood on his chair clapping. And then came that voice. Cold. Cutting. "Oh, please." Everyone at the table turned. Olivia was smiling, but not the kind that reaches the eyes. It was the kind of smile a person wears right before they break something precious. "Let's not act like this is some fairy tale," she said. "We all know the real story." Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Olivia, please." She stood up. Everyone's eyes followed her. Her wine glass was half full, her hands tense. You could feel the change in the room. That kind of stillness when you know a storm is about to hit. "You want to know the truth?" she asked loudly, pointing at me. "This woman, this old woman, she's not some sweet, loving grandma. She's a joke. She's an embarrassment." I felt Caleb's grip tighten on his fork. "She dresses like she shops in donation bins," Olivia went on, eyes locked on mine. "Every time we're out in public, I cringe. Her opinions are outdated, her voice is loud, and honestly, I'm tired of pretending. I sat still. I said nothing. I've had to put up with her for 15 years, Olivia said, voice rising. 15 years of apologizing for the things she says, for the way she acts. 15 years of trying to explain away her presence in our lives. She leaned down toward me, eyes filled with contempt. You disgust me, Ruth. That moment could have crushed me. But instead, I smiled. Just slightly. Just enough to confuse her. And I reached into my purse. What are you doing? Olivia asked, backing up slightly. I didn't respond. I just nodded toward Nathan, who walked across the room and touched the panel near the bar. The music stopped. The lights dimmed just enough to notice. And then the screen flickered to life. It wasn't the club's event calendar like usual. It was Olivia. In a lawyer's office. Sitting with her legs crossed, looking as if she had nothing to hide. On the screen, the lawyer's voice rang through the speakers. So you want to sever all legal ties? No contact, no visitation? Yes, Olivia replied calmly. I want a clean slate. No baggage from my past. As far as I'm concerned, I never had a daughter. Olivia gasped and clutched her chest. Her eyes widened as if she'd seen a ghost. No. No, turn that off, she said, her voice shaking. But it kept playing. The video showed her saying everything. No cuts. No edits. No lies. Caleb looked like someone had poured ice water over him. He turned to me. Who is she talking about? He whispered. My lips were trembling, but I whispered back. Madison. Her daughter. She left her behind when she was 15. Marcus didn't move. His eyes were glued to the screen. The room was dead silent, except for Olivia's recorded voice echoing across the hall. Completely sever everything. No future contact. I don't want her to find me. The sound of her own voice played like a curse. And Olivia? She collapsed into her chair. Her wine glass tipped, spilling dark red onto the white tablecloth. The room erupted in gasps. But I sat still, watching it unfold, like a movie I had memorized. This wasn't revenge. It was the truth. And it was finally out. Nathan walked quietly to the screen, ready to stop the video. But I shook my head. Let it finish, I said softly. Because people needed to see everything. My son needed to see. Caleb needed to see. Even Olivia needed to see who she really was when no one was watching. The video played for another minute. Olivia's voice filled the room, even as she sat there in real life, frozen, her mouth slightly open, her eyes wide like a cornered animal. The screen showed her nodding at the lawyer's words, not even blinking as she said, If she ever tries to contact me, tell her I'm dead. The gasp that came from the room felt like a wave. Someone at a nearby table dropped a fork. You could feel the weight of what had just been said. Dead. She had told the lawyer to lie, to tell her daughter she was dead. To erase herself completely from a young girl's life. My grandson, Caleb, looked like he was about to be sick. Beside me, Marcus finally found his voice. It was low, almost broken. Is this real? He whispered. Did she really? I nodded. Olivia stirred in her seat, her hands trembling now. Her voice came out hoarse. This is taken out of context, she mumbled. You don't understand. I turned to her, my voice calm. Then explain it. She blinked at me. Then at Marcus. Then at Caleb. But no one said anything to save her. I was young, she stammered. It was before I met any of you. It was a difficult time. You don't know what I was going through. The screen went black, and the regular event calendar returned like nothing had happened. But the damage was done. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding but steady. This was what I had waited for. For her to show her true face, not just to me, but to everyone. Marcus looked down at the table. You had a daughter? He asked, his voice barely there. Olivia nodded slowly. Had. Yes. Her name is Madison. But it was complicated. I didn't have help. I was alone. I did what I thought was best. You told people you were dead, I said softly. Olivia turned to me sharply. I had no choice. No choice. Marcus stood now, slowly, as if every part of him hurt. You had no choice but to pretend to be dead? I needed to move on, she said. She was angry. She was difficult. Caleb spoke next, his voice shaking. How old was she when you left her? Olivia opened her mouth, but no words came out. 15, I answered for her. She was 15 years old. Olivia's eyes narrowed. You had no right to investigate me. I looked her straight in the eye. I had every right. You married my son. You joined my family. And something about you always felt hollow. Now I know why. There was a long silence. Then Marcus turned to me. When did you find out? 4 months ago, I said honestly. I hired a private investigator. I didn't want to believe it. But I couldn't ignore what I saw. You violated my privacy. Olivia snapped. You stalked me. I protected my family, I said firmly. You tried to erase your own daughter. I won't let you do that to Caleb or to anyone else. Olivia stood up, unsteady, her chair scraping loudly behind her. You think you've won? You've destroyed this family. I stood too. No. I didn't destroy anything. I just turned on the light. You're the one who's been hiding things in the dark. Marcus was quiet now. Caleb had his hands in his lap, staring at the table like he wasn't sure what world he had woken up in. Then he whispered, Does she know about us? About this family? No, I said. Madison doesn't even know her mother is alive. Olivia's face crumbled. She looked around the room. Not one person stood with her. Not a friend. Not a relative. Not even her husband. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was different now. He wasn't angry. He sounded tired. Like something had broken inside him. You lied to me for our whole marriage, he said. You hid a daughter from me. She's not a part of our lives. Olivia shouted. She hasn't been for years. She should have been, he said quietly. And with that, he stepped away from her. Come on, Caleb, he said. Caleb stood slowly, unsure at first. But when he looked at Olivia, he didn't see his mother anymore. He saw a stranger. This isn't over, Olivia said, her voice shaky but full of hate. You'll regret this. I reached for my purse, calm as ever. No. Olivia. What you'll regret is thinking truth can stay buried forever. And we left. As we walked through the dining room, I could feel dozens of eyes on us. Whispers followed our steps. Some people nodded at me with quiet respect. Others stared with disbelief. But I didn't care. I had done what I came to do. By the time we reached the parking lot, the cool evening air hit my face like a fresh beginning. Caleb didn't say anything. He just opened the car door for me, quietly. Like a gentleman. We didn't speak much on the drive home. Because honestly, there was nothing left to say, at least not that night. 2 days passed after the dinner. I thought maybe things would quiet down, at least for a little while. But Olivia wasn't someone who sat still after a blow. She was the kind of person who fought back. Not with honesty, but with lies wrapped in tears. It started with a phone call. I was out in the garden early in the morning, trimming the roses like I did every Thursday. My hands were in the soil when my phone buzzed on the bench. I wiped the dirt from my fingers and answered. Mom. It was my youngest daughter, Angela. She lived 3 states away and rarely called in the middle of the week. Everything all right, sweetheart? I asked. Her voice was tight. Can I ask you something? Did something happen at Caleb's graduation dinner? I closed my eyes. I had hoped I'd have more time. Olivia called me this morning, Angela continued, her words quick and shaken. She was crying. She said you've been trying to destroy her marriage. That you hired someone to spy on her. She said you embarrassed her in front of the whole family. My hands started shaking again, but not from fear. From the weight of knowing exactly how Olivia worked. I had seen this before. She wasn't just manipulative. She was fast and smart, and always the first to paint herself as the victim. She said what? I asked gently. She told me you've hated her since the day she married Marcus. That you never truly accepted her. She said you made the dinner about yourself. That you blindsided her with a fake video. That she's scared of you, Mom. Angela's voice cracked a little on that last sentence, and my heart hurt. My own daughter was doubting me. Angela, I said softly, sitting down on the garden bench. There's more to this than Olivia told you. She said you crossed the line. That you violated her privacy. That you had no right to look into her past. I did have a right, I said. I did it for our family. For Marcus. For Caleb. For you. She was quiet. Then she asked, did you really do it? Did you hire someone? Yes, I replied. I hired a private investigator. And I found out she abandoned her daughter. When Madison was just 15. She cut her out of her life like she was nothing. And then told her lawyers to act like she had died. Another silence. But this one was heavier. She has another daughter? Angela whispered. How is that even possible? Why would she hide that? Because she didn't want Madison in her new life. Because Madison asked questions Olivia didn't want to answer. Angela's voice shook. Do you have proof? Yes. I have court papers. A video. Everything. She took a breath. Mom. I don't know what to think. And there it was. That quiet, painful crack in trust. Not because Angela didn't love me, but because Olivia had gotten to her first. That same day, I got 2 more calls. One from Marcus's cousin, Elaine, and another from Caleb's girlfriend, Anna. Both of them had heard a version of the story. Olivia's version. In that version, I was the bitter mother-in-law. The jealous old woman who couldn't let go of control. The one who dug into a woman's private pain just to make her look bad. She was quick, I had to give her that. By evening, even my neighbor, Helen, brought it up during tea. I'm not taking sides, Helen said, stirring her cup gently. But people are talking, Ruth. Some say you've always been a little hard on Olivia. That you never really wanted her in the family. I looked at Helen, this woman I'd known for 20 years, and felt a coldness I hadn't felt before. She abandoned her daughter, I said quietly, and paid someone to fake a death certificate. Helen blinked. That's not what she told me. What did she say? I asked. She said Madison was troubled. Into drugs, maybe. She said the girl didn't want to be part of the family anymore. That she was violent. That she left Olivia no choice. I nearly dropped my spoon. That's a lie, I said firmly. Madison was 15. She was working part-time and getting straight A's. I've seen her records. Helen looked uncomfortable. Olivia said you twisted everything to make her look like a monster. She said she was going to come clean, but you forced her hand. And there it was. The script was spreading. Olivia had started rewriting the story. Faster than I could catch it. She didn't just lie. She made sure her version got to everyone before the truth did. By dinner, I had received another message. This time, from Marcus. Mom, we need to talk. I knew what that meant. He wasn't calling to thank me. He wasn't ready to see me as someone who protected him. He wanted answers. Answers Olivia had already tried to rewrite. The next day, we met at a coffee shop downtown. Marcus chose the place. Not our home, not his. Somewhere neutral. That told me everything. When he walked in, he didn't hug me. He just sat down and folded his hands on the table. I've been thinking a lot, he started. I'm sure you have, I said. What you did, hiring someone to investigate my wife, ambushing her at the dinner, it wasn't right. I felt something cold form in my chest. What would have been right, Marcus? Pretending I didn't know? You should have come to me first, he said. We could have talked about it as a family. Like adults. I asked. While she explained everything away and convinced you I was overreacting. No. Marcus. She's done that for 15 years. I couldn't risk it again. He looked at me, his jaw tight. She said you took everything out of context. That you edited the video to hurt her. She's lying. He leaned closer. Mom, she said you never liked her. That you were waiting for something to use against her. That you wanted her gone. My hands trembled slightly, but I kept my voice even. I didn't want her gone. I wanted the truth to come out. For your sake. For Caleb's. He shook his head slowly. You crossed a line. There it was, the wall. I realized then. Olivia hadn't just survived the dinner. She had turned it into fuel. I sat there, across from my son, and for the first time in years, I felt like I didn't recognize him. Marcus wasn't speaking to me like a son talks to his mother. His words were careful, like someone who'd been rehearsing. He didn't want a conversation. He wanted to manage a situation. Me. "Mom," he said again, his tone quieter now. "You made it public. You humiliated her. Whatever you found, it didn't have to be shown in front of everyone." "I tried to think of another way," I told him honestly. "But you've known Olivia for 15 years. Tell me, if I had shown you everything in private, would you have believed me?" He didn't answer. I leaned forward slightly. "You know how convincing she can be. She lies with a straight face. She spins everything. You've seen it, Marcus. You've just never wanted to admit it." He looked away. Out the window. Then back at me. "She told me Madison had problems. That she was angry. That she didn't want help." I felt a deep ache in my chest. "She's still saying that?" I asked. "Even now?" "She says Madison was dangerous. That she chose to cut contact." I stared at him. Madison didn't even know Olivia was alive. She was told her mother died in a car crash. "Do you think she made that up?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. For a second, something cracked in his eyes. Doubt maybe. Or shame. "She said she did it to protect her," Marcus said. "Protect her from what? From a mother's love? From knowing she existed? From the truth?" He rubbed his forehead like his brain was spinning. "She said you violated her trust. That you went behind her back." "I did," I said. "And I'd do it again. Because the woman you married erased her daughter like she was an old receipt. And I couldn't let her do it again. To you, to Caleb, to any of us." He looked exhausted. "Esme agreed to consider therapy. Family counseling. She's willing to talk through everything. Therapy won't fix what she did," I said softly. "She's still my wife," Marcus said. "She's Caleb's mother. We can't just erase her." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The irony hung in the air like smoke. She had erased someone. And now, suddenly, erasing was unacceptable. "What about Madison?" I asked. "What does she get? After everything she's been through?" "If she really is in that much need," Marcus said carefully, "maybe we can help." Quietly. "But that's something Esme and I have to decide together." There it was. The lock. The wall. He wasn't ready to see the truth. Not fully. He didn't want to believe the woman he loved was capable of what she'd done. And instead of pulling her closer to the truth, he was drifting further away from me. I smiled, just a little, but there was no joy in it. "That's your decision," I said. "But know this, Marcus. I didn't bring this to light to hurt you. I did it because I love you. And because I knew no one else would stand up to her." He nodded. Slowly. "I know you think you did the right thing." "I know I did," I replied. When I got home that evening, the house felt different. Still mine, but quieter. Even my dog, Daisy, seemed to sense I was carrying something heavier than usual. I made myself tea. I sat by the window. And I thought about battles. People always picture battles as loud and bloody. Swords clashing, people shouting. But the hardest battles? They're silent. They're the ones fought across kitchen tables, in family group chats, behind closed doors. The ones where the person you're fighting isn't an enemy. It's someone you love, someone who won't believe you even when the truth is screaming in their face. Olivia had done something worse than just abandon her daughter. She had planted doubt. Deep, clever, and quiet. And it was working. I started to see it in the days that followed. The people who once called me for advice stopped. The women from my church who usually asked me to bake for events began choosing someone else. Even my bridge partner canceled with a vague excuse. Olivia was rewriting the story. And fast. She had gone from monster to misunderstood. And me? I was now the villain in my own family's eyes. And yet, something told me I hadn't lost. Not completely. Because 2 weeks later, something happened I never expected. It was a Saturday evening. I was cooking dinner. Just for myself. The TV was on low. The kitchen smelled like garlic and rosemary. And then the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, a young woman stood there with a backpack on her shoulder and tired eyes. She had Caleb's brown eyes. Marcus's nose. and Olivia's cheekbones. "Mrs. Brooks?" she asked quietly. "My name is Madison Phillips." My hand gripped the doorframe for support. My knees felt weak. "I think we need to talk." I stared at her, frozen in the doorway. She looked younger than I expected, smaller too, but there was something in her posture that reminded me of myself at her age. A quiet strength. Eyes that had seen too much too soon. "I'm sorry to come unannounced," she said, shifting her weight. "But I had to know why someone was asking questions about me." "Madison," I whispered. It felt unreal. For months, I had seen pictures, read reports, watched videos. But seeing her in person? Standing on my porch in a wrinkled hoodie and jeans, holding a tired-looking backpack? It made everything real in a different way. "How did you find me?" I asked. "It wasn't easy," she said, forcing a small smile. "But when a private investigator starts digging around in your past, word spreads. Especially in a city like Portland." I stepped aside without thinking. "Come in. Please." She walked slowly into my living room, her eyes scanning the space like she was trying to memorize it. I offered her a seat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd cried while watching her mother's video. "I made some coffee earlier," I said. "Would you like a cup?" She nodded. "That'd be nice. Thanks." While the microwave reheated it, she sat in silence, her hands folded tightly on the table. I noticed they were trembling just a little. When I sat across from her and slid the mug toward her, she took it but didn't drink. "You're Olivia's mother-in-law," she said. "Yes. And you're her daughter." She nodded. "Apparently." Her voice cracked on that word. Apparently. That one word told me everything about what she'd been through. "I spent 8 years thinking she was dead," Madison said suddenly, looking straight at me. "When I turned 20, I saved up enough to hire a cheap investigator to find her. He told me she died in a car accident 2 years earlier." My stomach dropped. "I even saw a death certificate," she went on. "It looked real. I went to therapy for 3 years because of it. Trying to grieve someone I barely knew but still missed." I could hardly breathe. "Madison, I'm so sorry." "I was angry at first," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "Then confused. And now I just want answers. Why would a mother do that to her child?" I didn't know how to answer that. So I did the only thing I could. I told her everything. I told her about the private investigator, about what we found, about the video, the dinner, the fallout. I told her about how Olivia had twisted everything afterward, about the calls I received, and how the family had started to pull away. By the end of it, Madison was sitting very still. "So, she's still lying?" she asked. "She told everyone you were troubled. That you were into drugs. That you ran away. That you cut contact." Madison laughed. But it wasn't a real laugh. It was bitter and hollow. "I was 15, she said. "I was getting A's in school. I worked weekends to help buy groceries. My grandmother was 78 and had arthritis so bad she could barely walk. And I stayed. I stayed even after my mom stopped answering my calls. Even after she moved away." She paused, eyes filling with tears. "And I only left when there was no one left to stay for." I reached across the table and put my hand on hers. "I believe you." Her eyes met mine. "You've seen the school records?" I nodded. "I've seen them. I know the truth. I know who you are." She swallowed hard. "Then I need to do something." "What is it?" "I want to meet them." My breath caught. "Who?" "My half-brother. Your son. I want to tell them myself." I hesitated. "Madison, I don't know if they're ready to hear it. Olivia's been spinning her story non-stop. They've already started doubting me." "Then they can look me in the eye and doubt me too," she said firmly. "Let them see the person their mother left behind." There was a quiet strength in her voice that gave me chills. "What are you hoping to find, Madison?" I asked softly. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm not here to take anything. I just want Caleb to know I exist. I want Marcus to know who he married. And I want Olivia to say it to my face. That I didn't matter." I couldn't speak for a moment. I just stared at her, this brave young woman who had survived more than anyone should. "There's a barbecue this Saturday," I finally said. At Marcus's house. Olivia planned it as a healing event. To fix things after the dinner. Madison looked at me. Her voice was quiet but steady. Take me. Saturday came with heavy clouds. The sky hung low, the kind of gray that made everything feel heavier than it really was. As I drove toward Marcus's house, Madison sat quietly in the passenger seat, holding a small tote bag on her lap. Her hands were steady, but I could feel the nervous energy coming off her in waves. She wore a plain blue dress, nothing fancy, just clean and modest, and tied her hair back into a neat ponytail. She looked younger than she had in the photos Julian had shown me, but also older in some ways. Like someone who had spent years learning how to carry her own weight without asking for help. Are you sure about this? I asked gently. She looked at me, her face calm. No. But I've waited too long to stay quiet now. When we pulled into the driveway, we could already hear laughter and soft music playing from the backyard. The grill was on. I could smell burgers and charcoal in the air. People were chatting, plates were clinking, and in the middle of all that healing energy was Olivia, playing the role she always played best. I didn't use my spare key. I knocked on the front door. Marcus answered, surprised to see me. His smile was polite, but stiff. Mom. You came. I brought someone I think you should meet. I stepped aside so he could see her. Madison stood there, eyes steady, shoulders square, ready for whatever was coming. Marcus blinked a few times, staring at her face, and I knew in that moment he saw it. The resemblance. The undeniable connection. The warm brown eyes. The shape of her jaw. This is Madison, I said. Your stepdaughter. He didn't speak. His mouth opened, then closed. I saw the confusion rising in his face. Hi, Madison said quietly. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Before he could respond, a glass shattered somewhere behind us. Then came Olivia's voice, high-pitched, pretending to sound casual. Who's at the door, honey? We stepped inside. And the moment Madison walked into that living room, everything stopped. The music, the laughter, even the sizzling grill in the backyard. All of it seemed to pause. Caleb stood up from the couch, staring. His girlfriend looked back and forth between them, realizing they shared the same eyes. You're my sister? Caleb asked, his voice small. Half-sister, Madison said gently. But yes. The room stayed still for a long beat. Then Marcus finally found his voice. I don't understand. If this is true, if you're really Olivia's daughter, why didn't you ever contact us before? Madison took a shaky breath, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. She placed it on the coffee table in front of him. I tried, she said. I spent years trying. But when I turned 20, I hired an investigator. He showed me this. She opened the folder, revealing a death certificate. It says Olivia Brooks died in a car crash 2 years earlier. Your wife told people she was dead. She even paid someone to make it look official. You could have heard a pin drop. Olivia stepped into the room slowly. Her face had drained of color. She stared at Madison like she was looking at a ghost. Madison, she said, forcing a smile. Sweetheart, this isn't what it looks like. No, Madison said. It's exactly what it looks like. Please, I was going to tell you all when the time was right. You had 15 years. Olivia turned toward Marcus, her voice cracking. David, please. Don't, he said. Just don't. Caleb stepped closer, staring at Madison. What was your life like? After? Madison met his eyes. Hard, she said honestly. I worked 2 jobs. Lived in a tiny studio. Went to community college on night shifts. No family. No one to call when things got scary. A silence followed that seemed to squeeze the air out of the room. I'm not here to ruin anything, she said. I just want you to know I exist. That she left me. That she didn't even look back. Everyone was quiet. Even the guests in the kitchen had gone still. Marcus finally sat down on the edge of the couch, flipping through the papers in Madison's folder. Court documents, school reports, even the receipt Olivia had used to pay the woman who told people she had died. You paid someone to fake your own death? He asked quietly. Olivia's eyes darted back and forth. It wasn't like that. How was it, Olivia? He said louder now. Explain it to me. Explain how abandoning your child and pretending you were dead made sense. I had to, she said, her voice rising. I had a new life. I couldn't drag all that mess into it. And Madison? Caleb asked. Was she part of that mess? Olivia's voice cracked again. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. That sentence hung in the air like a slap. Madison's face didn't flinch, but her eyes filled with tears. You didn't just abandon me, she said softly. You erased me. You erased me so cleanly that I believed you were gone forever. Even Olivia's biggest offenders in the room, her sister-in-law, her best friend, her cousin, were now backing away slowly, no longer able to meet her eyes. She had a new family, Madison said. And I didn't fit the picture. That's the truth. There was nothing else to say. No more lies. Just silence. Cold, hard silence. And then Marcus stood up, walked to the door, and opened it wide. Get out, he said to Olivia. She stared at him in disbelief. What? Get out of my house. You can't just. I can, he said. You lied to me. 4 years. And now I see you. I see exactly who you are. You'll regret this, she whispered. All of you. But no one answered her. No one moved. Not even Caleb. Finally, she picked up her purse, glanced around one last time, hoping for a single friendly face, and then she walked out. The door closed behind her. And the silence broke. Caleb turned back to Madison. I can't believe I have a sister. Madison smiled, through tears. Half-sister, she corrected gently. Sister, he said again. The half part doesn't matter. After the door shut behind Olivia, no one spoke for a long time. It was like everyone was trying to catch up to reality. Like their brains couldn't believe what their eyes had just witnessed. Madison stood there, still holding her folder, her shoulders stiff. Her eyes were red but dry now. She looked like she didn't know whether to sit, run, or collapse. Marcus finally moved. He picked up the folder she had brought, the same one that had shattered every lie Olivia had built, and walked it over to the dining table. He sat down slowly, turning each page again, this time with a different kind of attention. I didn't know, he said quietly. I swear to you, Madison. I didn't know any of this. She sat across from him, nodding once. I believe you. I wish I had, he said, his voice thick with guilt. I wish I'd seen her clearly. I feel like a fool. You're not a fool, Madison said gently. She fooled everyone. Caleb sat next to her, his eyes still wide with everything he'd learned. What happens now? He asked. Madison gave a tiny shrug. I don't know. I didn't come here with a plan. You didn't want revenge? Someone asked from the kitchen, one of Marcus's cousins, still shocked. Madison shook her head. No. I just didn't want to disappear quietly. I wanted someone to know I existed. You could hear people breathing now. That's how quiet the house had become. I thought she was dead, Madison continued. I spent 3 years in therapy grieving her. And all that time, she was here, building a new life like I never existed. A tear slipped down Caleb's cheek. He wiped it quickly, but he didn't hide it. Where are you living? He asked. Portland. Still working 2 jobs. Finishing up my last semester at community college. Alma, Marcus's aunt, stepped forward from the hallway. Do you need help, sweetheart? Madison blinked. I don't know. Alma reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled bill. Take this. I don't have much, but I think we all owe you more than money. Before Madison could say anything, another relative stepped forward, and another. Someone offered to help with her books. Someone else asked if she needed a laptop. A cousin said she had an extra room if Madison ever needed to visit again. It wasn't pity. It was something else, like the whole family was trying to undo the damage Olivia had caused, one kind gesture at a time. Then Marcus stood up again. I want to help too, he said. Whatever you need, school, housing, anything. I'm here. And I'll do whatever I can to make this right. Madison stared at him for a moment, as if deciding whether to trust it. Then she nodded once, slowly. Thank you. As the barbecue wound down, people gathered around Madison like they were getting to know a long-lost family member. Because that's exactly what she was. Not a stranger. Not a guest. But someone who should have always been there. Later that evening, as we drove back to my house, the sky finally opened up and let out a soft rain. Madison stared out the window for a long time before speaking. That went better than I expected. You were brave, I said. Braver than most people I've ever met. She didn't respond for a while. Then she asked, "Do you think it's over?" I took a slow breath. With Olivia? No. I don't think she gives up that easily. Madison nodded. I figured. But something's different now, I said. She can't lie her way out of this anymore. People saw you. They heard the truth from your mouth. And that's something she can't erase. Madison leaned her head back against the window. It's strange, she said softly. All my life, I thought I wasn't worth keeping. I thought there was something wrong with me. Something that made my mother leave. My hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. There was nothing wrong with you, I said. Nothing. She didn't leave because of who you were. She left because of who she was. The rain hit the windshield in a gentle rhythm. It almost felt peaceful. Thank you, she said. For everything. For believing me. For fighting for me. I didn't do anything you didn't already survive, I told her. You're the one who lived through it. I just made sure people knew. When we got home, I made us both some tea. Madison sat at the same kitchen table where I had first opened Julian's folder months ago. She looked different now. Still tired, but not so alone. I think I'd like to transfer to a school closer, she said suddenly. If that's okay. I smiled. I think that's more than okay. And maybe find a part-time job that doesn't involve standing in parking lots at 3 a.m., she added, half joking. I might know someone who needs help organizing a community center fundraiser, I said with a wink. She laughed. A real one this time. Soft. But real. That night, I went to bed feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not relief. Not victory. Hope. Weeks passed, and things didn't go back to normal. But they got better. Madison moved into a small rental apartment just 5 blocks away from me. It wasn't perfect, the water pressure was weak, and the paint peeled near the windows, but it was hers. She finally had a space that belonged to her, one where she didn't have to hide, beg, or pretend to be okay. She enrolled in a local university, got approved for a part-time scholarship, and with Marcus's help, we set up a small fund to cover her tuition. Caleb visited her often. At first, he was shy and unsure of what to say. But as the weeks went on, they grew comfortable. He brought over books she might like, helped her hang shelves, even invited her to his fencing tournament. One Sunday afternoon, I walked into her apartment and saw them sitting on the couch, sharing a pizza and laughing like they had done it their whole lives. It was the kind of laughter Olivia had never allowed. As for Marcus, he changed too. Slowly, yes, but meaningfully. He began questioning things, asking Madison about her memories, revisiting stories Olivia had told him long ago and seeing them with new eyes. He still struggled with guilt. But he showed up. He listened. He apologized. That mattered more than anything. Olivia, on the other hand, didn't disappear. She tried to send emails, voice messages, once even sent a handwritten letter begging for forgiveness, saying she had panicked at a young age and never meant for things to go that far. Madison never replied. Not out of hate, but because she no longer needed validation from the woman who left her behind. And me? I kept gardening. I kept baking. I returned to my little routines. But something inside me had shifted too. For so many years, I had thought of myself as a quiet observer in this family. The background support, the one who cooked the meals and stayed out of the way. But now I had found my voice. And I had used it to protect someone who needed it most. One crisp fall morning, as leaves danced along the sidewalk, Madison joined me for tea on my porch. She wore a soft sweater, her cheeks pink from the cold. She looked happy. Peaceful. You know, she said, holding her cup, there were so many nights I thought I didn't matter. Like I was just extra. Forgotten. I reached over and squeezed her hand. You were never extra. You were always the missing piece. She smiled and looked out at the trees. I used to ask myself all the time, why didn't she want me? What did I do wrong? And what do you ask now? I whispered. I don't, she said. I stopped asking. Because the answer doesn't live in me. It never did. That made my eyes water. Because that was the truth I had always hoped she would reach. Not through anger or revenge, but through healing. Later that day, Caleb dropped by. He brought a small cake he'd baked himself, lopsided and slightly burnt, but made with pride. I wanted to celebrate, he said. For what? Madison asked, laughing. For having a sister who makes this family better. She hugged him. And in that moment, all the pain, all the lost years, all the broken pieces, they didn't disappear, but they softened. They no longer defined her. That night, I sat by my window with a journal in my lap and wrote just one sentence. The truth always rises, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. And I hope, I truly hope, that someone out there, sitting in silence like Madison once did, reads these words and knows they matter. That their story matters. That even when the world tries to erase you, even when people lie about who you are or pretend you never existed, your truth, your worth, your voice, it can't be erased. Because one day someone will believe you. And that is when the healing begins. Moral lesson. Sometimes the people who seem the most put together are the ones hiding the biggest lies. But truth has a way of finding light. No matter how long it's been buried. Never stop standing up for what's right. Even if it means standing alone. And never doubt your worth, even when others try to make you invisible. Because your truth matters.